Hawthorne answered 12 days after I contacted them. I opened the email at June's dining table with Renee beside me and my laptop connected to an external drive. The admissions coordinator had found my archived file. I had been admitted to the Master of Human-Centered Product Design program with a full tuition fellowship and a paid teaching assistantship. The offer was posted at 9:58 on a Friday night. My account declined it 16 minutes later. I remembered that night. Daniel had come over with takeout and insisted we watch an old comedy because I had spent the entire week refreshing the portal. At 10, he carried my laptop into the bedroom. "No more checking," he'd said. "You get one night off." At 10:14, while I sat on the couch laughing at a movie, he erased Boston. Hawthorne no longer had the technical logs that might identify a device. 6 years was too long. The record proved I had been admitted and that my account declined. The cemetery recording supplied the rest. Renee read every line twice. "This is strong evidence," she said. "It is not permission to detonate your life online. You say that like you've met June." "I have met June." From the kitchen, June called, "I can hear both of you." Renee copied the file into our evidence folder. "We use what is necessary, where it is necessary. We do not turn your divorce into content." My phone rang. Celeste Moreau, Morrow Bridal's creative director, rarely called before 9, unless a building was on fire. "Can you come in?" she asked. "We have a problem." The problem waited in a conference room at Morrow's West Loop studio. Someone had sent Bridal Wire, a small but vicious industry newsletter, photographs of Alyssa Hart's sketchbook. The anonymous sender claimed my award-winning glasshouse collection had been built from the work of a dead designer. 3 pages were displayed beside photographs of my gowns. The resemblance wasn't imaginary. Alyssa had drawn a translucent standing collar that curved around the jaw. I had used a softer version in organza. She had sketched pearl closures running diagonally across a bodice. Mine crossed the back of a reception dress. Her sleeve opened at the wrist like a folded petal. So did mine. Celeste sat across from me with our general counsel and the head of communications. "Tell us how this happened," she said. I wanted to deny everything. Instead, I told the truth. I explained Daniel's inspiration folders. I explained the cedar box. I played the part of the recording where he called my collection Alyssa's dream. No one rushed to reassure me. That made me trust them more. "We need to review your development archive," Celeste said. "Until then, the National Buyer campaign is paused." The campaign was supposed to launch in 5 weeks. It was the biggest opportunity of my career. Am I suspended? No. "But you are off Glasshouse Decisions until we establish provenance." I nodded. My phone lit beneath the table. Daniel had sent a message. It read, "This is what happens when private grief becomes public. Come home, and we can fix it before people decide you stole from her." I handed the phone to Renee. She read it and passed it to Morrow's counsel. Celeste's expression hardened. "Did your husband send the sketchbook?" "I don't know yet." Another message appeared. "I only asked the newsletter to consider the similarities. I can explain that it was a misunderstanding." This time, nobody had to ask. The room blurred at the edges. I put both palms on the table until my vision steadied. Daniel had stolen one future to keep me. Now he was threatening the future I had built because I refused to stay. Celeste leaned back. "Go home," she said. "I can work." That wasn't a punishment. It was an instruction to retrieve every sketchbook, file, email, sample note, and fitting photograph you have. If the work is yours, show us how it became yours. For the first time since the cemetery, someone had given me a problem I knew how to solve. I stood. "How long do I have?" "The review committee meets Monday." It was Thursday morning. June was already opening her laptop. Design looks romantic after it is finished. Before that, it looks like bad handwriting, coffee stains, muslin scraps, and 37 files named some variation of final. June and I spent 4 days inside that mess. Morrow's servers held dated versions of every pattern. My old sketchbooks showed how the glasshouse silhouettes had grown from photographs I took at the Lincoln Park Conservatory. Fitting notes documented each change from paper to fabric. The collection was mine. The uncomfortable part was also mine. Daniel's folders had influenced 3 details. I had trusted the images because I trusted him. I had redrawn, tested, and transformed them without knowing they began in Alyssa's sketchbook. By Sunday night, we could prove I had not copied her finished designs. We could not pretend she had never entered the work. At Monday's review, I presented the archive myself. When I finished, Morrow's counsel said the evidence did not support plagiarism. Celeste agreed. Relief moved through me, but it didn't last. The buyer campaign still featured the 3 disputed gowns. "Pull them," I said. Celeste studied me. "Legally, we don't need to. I need to. Those are the strongest looks." "Then let me replace them." The head of production made a sound that was almost a cough and almost a laugh. "In 5 weeks?" 4.5. Celeste removed her glasses. "With what?" I set my mother's blue sewing tin on the table. Inside it, beneath the bent zipper pulls, I had found a folded drawing I made at 16. It showed a formal jacket with a wide hidden loop instead of tiny buttons. The proportions were terrible. The idea wasn't... With the collection I was trying to make before Daniel decided which designer I should become, Celeste looked at the drawing for a long time. 3 looks, she said. No extra runway budget. June controls the schedule, and if she says you're done, you're done. June sighed. I hate when power goes to my head. We began that afternoon. I knew fabric, balance, and the architecture of a body in motion. I did not know enough about designing for limited grip, chronic pain, prosthetic limbs, or sensory sensitivity. In college, I would have guessed. At 30, I knew guessing was another way of deciding for someone. I called Jonah Bell. He answered on the 2nd ring. "How's your hand?" Annoyingly attached. "Good. I was worried June had plans for it." Jonah worked for a product design cooperative that partnered with an accessibility lab on the South Side. In college, we had spent 1 semester building kitchen tools together. He was patient with prototypes and impatient with people who called disabled users inspiring for existing in public. I asked if he could introduce me to the lab's apparel group. "Yes," he said. Then, after a pause, "But I need to tell you something first." I waited. "When I sent you that photograph of Daniel, I told myself it was only because you deserved the truth. Wasn't it? Mostly." The word tightened something in my chest. What was the rest? I never got over you. I shut my eyes. Jonah and I had been close in college. He was the person who first told me about Hawthorne. We had planned to apply together, but after I believed I was rejected, I stopped answering his calls. Shame made me cruel in quiet ways. Years later, we reconnected at trade events and pretended none of it had mattered. "You saw an opening," I said. "I saw your husband at a grave with your award. I would have sent the photograph if I were happily married with 6 children. But you also hoped." "Yes. At least he didn't turn the truth into a speech about purity. I can't be somebody else's second chance right now." "I know. Do you?" "I do now." He gave me the apparel coordinator's name and said he would email an introduction. He didn't ask to see me. He didn't offer to save the collection. Before we hung up, he said, "Tessa, I'm sorry my motive wasn't clean. Thank you for telling me." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't rejection either. The next morning, 6 people joined us around Morrow's fitting table. One was Marisol Vega, a trial attorney planning her wedding after a stroke, left her with limited movement in her right hand. She examined my first prototype, a gown with oversized satin loops down the back. "This is accessible," she said. I waited for the rest. "It is also hideous." June covered a laugh with her clipboard. Marisol smiled. "You invited honest people, right?" "I did." "Then don't make me look like I'm wearing medical equipment disguised as a wedding dress." I want the kind of dress that makes my fiancé forget how language works. I picked up my pencil. Tell me what your hands need. For the next 2 hours, I listened. One new gown closed at the shoulder instead of the spine. Another used a low-resistance side fastening hidden beneath a fold of silk. For the third, I separated the gown into 2 balanced pieces so it could be put on while seated without twisting the body. None of them look like solutions. They look like clothes someone might choose because they were beautiful. 3 weeks into the redesign, Daniel came tomorrow. Security called before letting him pass the lobby. "Send him away," June said. Daniel stood on the other side of the glass doors with my award case in his hand. 5 minutes, I told security. You stay with us. I met him in the lobby. He looked thinner. I noticed without wanting to. I brought this back, he said. He opened the case. The Lakefront Award lay inside, cleaned and polished. It belongs to you. It always did. His eyes flicked toward the security guard. Can we not do this with an audience? You came to my workplace. Daniel closed the case. I corrected the email to bridal wire. I told them the similarities were coincidental. They weren't entirely coincidental. Then what do you want me to say? The truth. The truth will destroy your reputation. It might bruise it. You were counting on me being too afraid to find out. His expression hardened. I was trying to make you understand what happens if you drag Alyssa into this. You sent her work to a publication because you told my family what happened. I answered your mother's questions. I never posted the recording or used Alyssa's name publicly. You humiliated me. The security guard looked down, suddenly fascinated by his shoes. Daniel stepped closer. Come home, he said. We issue one statement. I explain that I overreacted because I was grieving. Morrow keeps the collection. We go to counseling. And Hawthorne? I apologized. You apologized for getting caught. I made you successful. The words came out before he could soften them. He glanced away. I felt the old reflex rise in me. Keep the peace. Lower my voice. Give him a graceful way to take it back. Then I thought of my mother trying to close a cuff with swollen fingers while I stood beside her with pliers and a ridiculous square of blue fabric. If you made me, I said, you can watch me do it without you. Daniel's face lost color. Is this because of Jonah? No. He has wanted you since college. This is not about which man gets me next. You're having an affair. Don't make this ugly, Daniel. Even if I loved him, I'd only be keeping a small room in my heart for someone else. You told me that wasn't betrayal when the other woman was dead. He stared at me. Our marriage isn't dead. You buried it the night you declined Hawthorne. The security guard took one slow step farther away. Jonah gave me one professional introduction. He was honest about wanting more, so I told him no. Daniel laughed once, without humor. How noble. More honest than anything you've given me. He shoved the award case across the security desk. You think a few clever closures make this your life again? It never stopped being my life. I turned toward the studio. Communicate through Renee. Behind me, he said, if you file, I will fight you on everything. I looked back. Then fight. The word didn't feel brave. It felt expensive. Daniel knew our finances. He knew my father would pressure me. He knew the spring campaign could still collapse. He could slow the divorce, challenge the condo, and turn every private injury into a billable hour. But he had built his control around one assumption. Eventually, discomfort would make me surrender. That assumption had been correct for 6 years. It wasn't correct anymore.